here we are now. This is the January 29th program, and it's nice to be back on the air. It's been a while since I have been here. Uh, I took a break during the holiday season, and then I was gone for about 10 days where I did three workshops in India with all the wonderful people that were there, and it was very, very well organized. How they had put me organized three different workshops in three different cities, and then I got home, and I was only home for about maybe 4 or 5 days, and then I got called away again. Now I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what was going on and where I was, and I'll get into that. But first of all, let's give an update of what is going on again in the currency exchange because, folks, that's the main reason everybody's here, okay? So we have to remember this whole currency exchange that is run out of the Texas processing office is that it's overseen by white hats of the U.S. Treasury and the CIA. And I had received some info, probably about a month to a month and a half ago, from an individual who has his own individual contract with the Texas Processing Office, and he does talk with them often. And he told me, I can't verify this source, but I'm telling you what this individual told me. He told me that President Trump has been to the Texas Processing Office. He is aware of what is there, and he is aware of all of these funds being released. And so before anything can, if that is correct, we've been waiting then basically for President Trump to get elected, and then he is appointing a new Secretary of the U.S. Treasury that has the ability to oversee the release of the funds. Now, it's important to know that between the Dragon families and the processing office, normally the government's administration can't stop it and doesn't have any control over it. But what we think is we're getting great cooperation through President Trump, and that's what we've been waiting for. Now, can I guarantee that? I don't know. But all I know is it just appears to be that we're getting closer and closer to all of these funds starting to be released. And that's the information that I'm receiving from my sources. Because we have to remember, the release of these funds, it's not about us. It's a much, much bigger picture because this has an impact on the complete global economy. And we're just benefactors of a much, much larger process. We've been waiting for this for a long time. But I think personally myself, I think everything politically is finally lining up because you have to look at all the massive changes that Trump is wanting to bring, the people that he's wanting to appoint to be a part of his cabinet. These are the people that when I saw those selections, I said, oh my gosh. These are people that are truly wanting to create change, and if you can use the term that Trump wanted to use to drain the swamp. They really are. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to be happening in this process. Now, in the currency exchange, if you wish to purchase more dong, there's no limit. There's no limit on what right now on what's going on. See, and the reason is because the Texas Processing Office, their funds continue to increase and continue to grow. So the funds they have available to pay out is growing is what it's doing. So that's why they're saying right now there's no limit to how much you can purchase. You need to send me an email of which you wish to purchase more. And remember, you're purchasing dong at a price of $62 for 1 million dong, and that is scheduled to pay out at $1.50 a dong. So your $62 is going to turn into 1.5 million. And then we're always back to, well, why is this happening? What is going on here? We have to remember our money system, the process of the money, has basically been run by the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve controls the amount of money that is released into the economy, and basically from what I call a shadow operation process, they also have the ability to control the ebb and flow of finances and the ebb and flow of the economy. Now, I remembered all the way back in 2008 when I was involved in this, and the economy totally fell apart. And I started doing my research. I just started just doing everything I could to find out what was really going on here. And that's when I realized I basically said, those bastards, they created this pump up the economy, pump up the debt, pump up the debt, pump up the debt, crash the economy. And the Federal Reserve has the ability to control that. They control that over a long term. Because you have to remember who controls the Federal Reserve. It's amazing still how many people don't realize the Federal Reserve is not a government agency. It is a private corporation, a private business, and yet it has the ability to print up trillions of dollars anytime it wants to, release it out to the banks so that they stay in power and control. And there are four predominant families that control the Federal Reserve: the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the J.P. Morgans, and the Warburgs out of Germany. So they, in essence, are controlling the global economy. Why? Because what happens in the United States has a rollover impact that it pretty much dominates and impacts the rest of the economy all around the world. Both the United States and Europe combined, the Western countries dominate the global economy. And that is about to change. And what is about to change is the concept of the BRICS countries rising up and becoming independent and becoming stronger. And the United States is so deeply in debt that they may not be able to continue to be in this dominant place and factor. Now, what is then the purpose of the release of these funds? The purpose of the release of these funds is to neuter the power and control of the Federal Reserve. When trillions and trillions of dollars are released into the global economy with everyday people like you and me, and there's 40 to 60,000 people in the exchange that are made overnight millionaires, and we're told to go spend it, we basically get to say to the Federal Reserve, we don't need you anymore. We don't need your control anymore, and you're not going to control this global economy because we get to rise above it. And at the end of the day, that's the real reason why this is happening, because it's about this opportunity for us as the everyday common people to remove ourselves from the slavery positions of the Federal Reserve. And it's interesting because President Trump has said that he may want to possibly get rid of the Federal Reserve. Did you just hear me say that? There are rumors him saying that he wants to get rid of the Federal Reserve. Now, I want to take you back to something back when President Kennedy was president. President Kennedy had signed what was called the Green-Hilton Memorial Agreement with President Sukarno out of Indonesia. President Sukarno was a Dragon family member. Now, you've heard me talk about the Dragon families. It's important to know the Dragon families are not controlling the release of the currency exchange. They are not involved in any of that. They were just the source, the original source of the funding for the currency exchange. But back in '63, President Sukarno was a Dragon family member, and he with President Kennedy had signed what was called the Green-Hilton Memorial Agreement. And they had about $1 trillion back in 1963 they were going to want to release to the global economy, and again to basically neuter the power and control of the Federal Reserve. President Kennedy had said there was two things he wanted to do. Number one, he wanted to totally restructure the CIA because he knew that was the vehicle that the cabal or the black hats that were running everything, that was their vehicle of power and control. Secondly, he wanted to get rid of the Federal Reserve. So Kennedy said he wanted to get rid of the Federal Reserve and restructure the CIA, and both of those were the vehicles that allowed those that we call the cabal, they were their vehicles for power and control. Now, personally myself, I think that's the real reason why they took Kennedy out, because they had to stop that implementation of that Green-Hilton Memorial Agreement that President Kennedy and President Sukarno had signed. Now, since then, the Dragon families who have had this immense amount of gold say, how do we get this money out to where it does its job? It neuters the power of the Federal Reserve, empowers the what are called the third world countries, and starts creating an economic balance all around the world. And they started with the Dragon family started originally with the Green Hilton Memorial Agreement back right after World War II, and they realized they couldn't release the funds through that source because the countries were too corrupt at the top and the banks were too corrupt at the top, and this money would never get down to the level of the common people like you and me. Then there was the Green Hilton Memorial Agreement, and they took Kennedy out, so that got stopped. And that's when the Dragon families recognized that the powers that be, the cabal, they cannot stop 40 to 60,000 people being made millionaires overnight and being told, go spend it. That much money being spent all around the world neuters the power and the control of these controlling systems that control the money supply of the world. And that's the real purpose of this, to bring this in. And there's a lot of different, what I call intuitive sources, channelers, that are saying this is the era of the golden age. This is the era where humanity, everyday common people, gets to be removed or their from their slavery sources, and money is the power and control system of the world, and we get to go this money to we are given this to be able to create a whole new era for humanity, being free from these power elite groups and organizations. That's the real purpose of what's going on there. That's the real purpose of what we're doing here in the currency exchange. Now, that's why I think one of the reasons why it's been waiting so long. Now, there's another reason I think what they've been waiting for, to be able to take this kind of money and to send it out to 40 to 60,000 people. How can they do this safely so that professional hackers don't hack into the bank accounts and end up stealing the money? I think we were waiting for the advent of what is called blockchain technology. Blockchain technology totally changes how they can trace all this money. This new banking system that was implemented now gives them the ability to trace 12 levels down financial transactions, because when the transactions, they take place digitally. You use your debit card, you use your credit card, you write a check, but your bank accounts are all done on a digital basis. So when you spend money, and then that goes in, it goes to somebody else's bank account, and then somebody else's and somebody else's as they continue to spend it. They can trace that 12 levels down. And the reason they want this is to be able to, that they're now implementing this, is because with these new funds being released, they want to be able to see and trace, is this money getting into the hands of terrorists, drug dealers, and power and control people? And if it is, where did it implement and how did it get to them? That's one of the things they want to do with this. And what blockchain technology allows you to do, let's say 3 or 4 levels down, this money got into the hands of some drug dealers. Well, what they can do is now blockchain technology allows them to go back to the individual computer on the individual desk at the time of the day from of when and who it took place, so they can trace it back to the individual computer and who was online in that computer at the time that it happened. So that's what the new blockchain technology allows. It allows the tracing to where the hackers hack in or the people try to steal the money. Okay, so now that's what I think is going to happen. Now, some of the comments that are coming in here is okay, now if some of you are saying that there's no sound on your end, then it's your problem in your sound system, because everything else is going fine. Others are telling me everything is going fine. And so if you're having sound issues, it's your computer on your end. It's not on my end. And what you need to do then is find out in your sound system why it's not letting it come through. Because I've got other people saying it's working just fine here on Facebook, and so others are all saying that they can hear me, and so that's the situation. Now, let's see here again. I'm wanting to see. Yes, okay. So, all right. I'm looking at some of the comments here, all right? So, okay. I know they're not seeing me on Blog Talk because I had a problem on Blog Talk and I had to, oh, you know what? Well, they don't see me on Blog Talk. They can only hear me on Blog Talk. And we're not going to go there. I'm not going to mess with it. The video will be sent back out tomorrow, okay? And we're going to do it that way. So now I've given you a background on this, what happened. Now, what took place on my recent trip? And I just got home late last night. I can give you some of the surface details, but I can't give you all of the explicit details for security reasons. But this is it was when Obama was president. The rumors were, and I saw this on Facebook posted, is that he had quietly printed up $1 trillion in U.S. cash, and they put it into big, massive shipping containers, and they sent it to Africa. So Africa was getting $1 trillion of U.S. currency. Now, you can't find it on the internet anymore because here's what I have found out is when information comes out on the internet that is very degrading to the powers that be, to the elite, to the cabal, and it exposes their deep corruption. They have professional hackers that have the ability to go in, find the video source, totally delete it from the internet, and it will never be able to come back up again, and you can't do a search and find it. There are some various sources of information that happen around Obama's administration that do a lot of that. Well, Obama printed up all this money and they put it into these massive shipping containers, and then each of these containers had boxes in them. And I have a video that shows some of those boxes being opened up with all this cash inside. When the Federal Reserve prints up currency, they put a strap around it, that's in a bundle, and it tells the dollar value of the bundle. But also on that strap is the registration numbers of the currency so they know when it was printed, how it was printed, who it was sent to, etc., and stuff like that. It's a traceable number so that they can track that bundle of currency. Well, in these boxes, when it shows the currency, there's no Federal Reserve strap on it. They're just simply strapped with rubber bands. That means that all that currency was undocumented, unregistered, so it couldn't be traced, but yet it's still legitimate currency bundles of $100 bills. I had found out about this, and I was able to go to Africa, and I have been there on about 3 trips, and I was taken to a storage facility where there was these big shipping containers, and they opened them up and showed them to me. And in a shipping container, there were these smaller boxes, and inside each box was $25 million. And in the whole complete shipping container was $1 billion. And so basically, Obama had 1,000 of those shipping containers sent to different countries in Africa, and each shipping container had $1 billion of cash in it. And I've been there and I've seen it. Now, that's all I can say. Well, there's a smaller source of that money that's available through a specific individual. And I cannot give you any specific information, but all I know is that we were in the process of possibly acquiring some of that money. Now, you've heard me say for the release of the funds that I want to set up basically a credit union, and that's how we can release the funds to everybody in a safe and secure manner. That all of you that are involved in the exchange, I will create an account for you in the credit union, and I will place your money in your account. And that way it's yours. You can take it, use it, spend it, do whatever you want with it. Well, I've heard that it takes about $200,000 to set up and start a credit union. And that's what this money out of the Africa shipping containers is for, that I was able to see. There's a very high probability that I will be able to do that. Okay, so now I want to make a couple other announcement items. I know I didn't get on the Blog Talk Radio tonight. Well, Blog Talk Radio is going away. After tonight, there will no longer be a Blog Talk Radio. I have found a new program to use, and it's called Free Conference Call. We can do live streaming on Free Conference Call. I can do that just as Blog Talk Radio, and yes, you can call in. You can capture it on the internet, or you can listen to it on your phone. And I will starting the next program, assuming it's next week, I will have the link that you can go to for Free Conference Call. Now I'm going to do some tests on it before then, but that's basically what's happening there. So now, with Blog Talk Radio being on tonight, I don't have the ability to take any questions, okay? But here's what I want to say. Everything is looking good. Things are beginning to transpire. Based on my sources, we are looking that we might start seeing some movement, and we could be very, very close to the currency exchange taking place. I am going to be making another trip back to Africa to finish up receiving those funds that we can use to basically start the credit union. That's the update that I have for you tonight, folks. I was having some problems here getting on. I was going to use my normal source that I have through some of the other broadcasting, and I just said, forget this. I'm just going to go live on Facebook. And I know some of you weren't able to maybe get in on it tonight, or maybe you were on Blog Talk and you couldn't catch it. Well, remember, I always save this video and I send it out the next day. Okay? So, it's nice to be back on a program. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight, and hopefully then maybe we'll see you next week. Okay? Alrighty. Thanks a lot. Okay. Bye-bye.